next to each other in 2023.
2023. Trying something new, folks. Well, without further ado,
I'm Sam.
And I'm Sam.
And we're the Sams.
And we are the Sams.
How are y'all doing? This is so exciting.
So, hopefully we have a good show for you today.
Yes.
It's our first time coming on YouTube Live. Obviously, in the past, we've done our IG Lives, but trying something new and hope to create an opportunity to engage. And we're going to jump right into it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So tonight we're talking about what's love got to do with it. Mm-hmm. So just to give you a bit of a background, initially we did this particular segment of questions with a group of friends, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
Sam's talked together.
It was good. It was a good group,
yeah.
Good dynamic discussion. Like, people got a little heated.
It was spirited.
Yes, spirited discussion. It was great. It was a good topic.
Absolutely. So hopefully, we can have the same kind of engagement online. Why not? Let's try it out.
Yes.
All right. So what's love got to do with it? So Samantha.
Yes, that's me.
Here we go. What must manifest more in a long-term relationship? Love as a feeling or love as a decision?
I would have to say love as a decision, because feelings change. Like, you have ebbs and flows, especially if a relationship goes for a long time. Like, I wish like yours would go to the end of time. It's not always going to be highs. And I feel like, feelings, like you could love somebody. And then there's some moments where you don't like them, but you love them enough to either work through that or it just dissipates or whatever. But feelings, they can get fickle. So decision, you're consciously thinking. So
consciously thinking.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Love as a feeling. I think interestingly enough, the feeling, I think, is developed through the consciousness, through the action.
Right.
And, I think that that's something that I've quite frankly learned. It's like, I don't know if I thought that way sort of growing up, but I think being in a marriage, being in a relationship, I think there's an understanding in terms of the action and the act of love that has to be demonstrated, that I think ultimately feeds into the feeling of being loved,
Right. And I have to agree, like, again, pre-married Sam, me, like, you were like, oh, you want them the feeling and it's the butterflies and but marriage is work. Like it's not all about the feeling. Because then we throw kids in there again.
That was perfect. I appreciate that. So continue.
Okay. I'm just saying, like, okay, I know younger me would have been like, what do you mean? Like, your feelings and it's all about how you feel. But now it's just like with adulting, kids, and marriage is just not the wedding day bubble. You have to work at it. Not saying it should be difficult. You just need to work and develop your relationship. Like they say, water it so it grows.
Right.
So you consciously decision. But we'll go back to me being perfect. What happened?
Well, I said what you just did was perfect.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because you said it's not all about just the feeling.
Right.
And I've been thinking about something for a few days.
Okay.
And it has to do with dating.
Okay.
And I heard another YouTuber talk about dating being something that should occur after marriage. And I thought it put my brain in a pretzel for a little bit, because I'm thinking like, well, how do you start dating someone after marriage? But then as I continued to listen, I recognized that even how we really got together, there was a reality to the words that like I even gravitated towards. And here's essentially was the concept.
Okay, because I was going to ask, is it like when, they say even after you get married, you should still court your wife?
Sure. So I think but it's more about the disadvantage of entering a dating relationship.
Okay.
And here's what I mean.
All right.
When I say disadvantage. When you meet somebody and either you are introduced from friends, like however the you are meeting someone and you're interested, you want to see if you like them. Like maybe obviously there's something in the eye that draws you to the person and you want to see if there's something there.
Right.
Generally what happens is that we go on dates. Like that's the customary way men and women get to know each other or people get to know each other, right? The drawback is that when we go on dates, we are on our best foot.
Okay. Right.
Right. So because there's something that we desire, we are interested in presenting what we need to present in order to obtain what we want.
Right. Like I'm not going to come to the table and say, "Oh, I snore," or
right. So like even your flaws, you'll keep those to the back to the vest. But even just in terms of being naturally who you are, you're more conscious about being who you naturally are because you want to present your best self.
Right. Like you're represented.
You're representative. And I think the problem with pursuing relationships that way, especially if we're talking about marriage, is as you said, marriage isn't all about the feeling, right? To get through a marriage, there's so much more duty involved in terms of the discipline of day-to-day things that are required that you've committed to for the duration of marriage that is beyond how I am feeling about this person. Right? So if you enter the relationship based off of how you feel about the person, I think it puts you at a disadvantage for fully understanding what's required to sustain a marriage long term, because this is not what's going to carry me.
Right. But how do you get there if you don't date in the beginning?
Aha. That is a great question. And here's the answer. It should be someone that is part of your network.
See, here's the tricky part.
Okay.
Here's the tricky
part.
Let's
do it.
Female side.
Let's do it.
It's like, okay, you can have somebody in your network where and somebody in your group, you're attracted or you're like, oh, something's there. There's some kind of attraction. And you can have a friend that be like, oh, I think y'all be perfect for each other. Right? Y'all like the same things or y'all just whatever. Even if you hang out with this person from time to time, it's just like always good chemistry, right? Y'all go on a date and it's a disaster. Like, so if they would have married me off to this person before the date,
right?
It would have like
understood. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I'm just saying, like, everybody that you think you will connect with, it's like you date, you talk, and you're like, ugh, he kind of skews me out, or he's not so funny.
That's fair. And that's why and that's why I think even again, dating as a way to get to know somebody, I think might be the wrong approach. So you're saying, okay, if you're invited by friends, maybe there's some friends outings that are created, right? Okay. I think what ultimately needs to happen is that people need to see each other in their natural environment. Like that's like, especially if we're talking about marriage, you gotta figure that part out. Like not saying you, I'm just saying in general, right. It should be that important to you that you figure out a way to see this person in their natural habitat. If you want to take it to the wild, right? Right. Because you like, and you want to be in each other's presence in natural habitat to see just like what the natural sort of like flow of your relationship is. So it's like
if y'all hang together as a group and friends, you become friends to then,
or can you become friends?
Right. To then say, okay.
Yeah. Gotcha. Like you need to see the person with their guard down and they need to see you with your guard down. Like you can't, I think it puts you at a disadvantage when you're looking at someone romantically because like your eyes are dotted, right? Like
you have rose-colored glasses on. like with you. First go round, I had rose-colored glasses on. The baby couldn't do no wrong. Then the second go round, it was like, oh, those bad boys were broken, cracked, or whatever. And we became friends. And as a friend, I'm like, okay, like we're on the same level.
That's how it worked. And it's funny because, you know, not to really talk about that part of our relationship, but hey, why not? You know, when we first met, again, we tried to force dating, even though I wasn't really in that space, but we tried to force it and it didn't work. But I'm glad it didn't work because we both acknowledged like it was she had the dotted I's, you know, and so there, like, you know, and I was conscious of the fact that like whatever I did, there would be grace there, you know. But the second time around, like, our interaction with each other, because our interaction with each other wasn't about that.
Right. It wasn't.
Like it wasn't about that. And I think because of it, and the fact that we still just had a bond and energy in terms of how we operated around each other.
We were friendly.
We were right.
Like I feel like we were friendly. We could talk, joke. Like I feel like we laughed a lot. Like I feel like my memory is.
That's good.
But I feel like we laughed a lot. But I just feel like that foundation helped the friendship.
Right. No, I agree, and I think that not only did it help the friendship, but for me, it established sort of like how I could envision, you know, what life could be like in terms of, and again, observe you and like sort of answer questions I would have in a wife anyway. And so us being in the same circle, you know, and having sort of the role that we played for each other, even as friends, and just being able to support one another, you know, I thought was way more influential in my thought process in terms of, as opposed to any other dating relationship in the pursuit of something long-term. You know, like those months were more meaningful and told me so much more about what's required for marriage as opposed to my previous traditional relationships. You know, it's like so I find that to be very interesting. When I heard it, I didn't understand it. And I was like, but that doesn't make sense. And the beautiful part about that is that to be able to date for a lifetime, it's a very cool idea, you know? And so as married couples, we should date and continue to date.
Right.
You know?
And I mean, if you remember when we first got married, it was a thing of like, you know, okay, once a month we had a date night. And I feel like we kept it up for a really long time. And a baby came. And I mean, we do try to incorporate it, but I feel like more it's like, oh, we haven't had us time in a while. So then it's like, oh, we schedule it. But I feel like dating your spouse, like really going on a date. And it's not let's talk about the household task and stuff that we talk about every day. And it's also like getting to know each other. Like so much stuff happens in a week, a day, like, you know.
But it's also getting to know each other for a lifetime, you know, because as we all change through life.
Yes.
And so you should. Well, you do, you know, regardless of how you acknowledge. I mean, that's just reality. So, you know, I think continuing to date each other, I think, is a really cool, fun exercise and process, because
and you should continue to flirt with each other.
Message. All right. So, okay, here's a question for you.
All right, I'm ready.
Being honest in a relationship is the best policy. Is that the best policy, being honest in a relationship?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Okay. Being upfront about your intentions is generally never incorrect. Sometimes we try to protect ourselves. Okay. Here, it's a statement. It's a statement. My apologies. All right, here we go. Being honest in a relationship is the best policy.
Okay.
Being upfront about your intentions is generally never incorrect. So let me stop right there.
Right.
That break this up.
Fact. Your intentions should be known.
Being upfront about your intentions is generally never incorrect.
Don't be wishy-washy.
Yeah. And it's funny because I was listening to something else, and it was talking about playing hard to get as a rule of thumb.
Yes.
like whether that should be adopted by women or not?
So here's the thing. I feel like you can play hard to get to a limit. Because I feel like it can go to the extreme and then it's just like, I'm tired. I'm off to the next.
As the man. Okay.
And it's like, I feel like sometimes like he has every right because you're just playing too hard where you really like him, but you're not trying to show your cards or your feelings and you just missed out on your blessing. So, but no, I really feel like your intentions should be known. They should be upfront. Yeah, and clear. So that way it's like you going into something, it's not like, oh, I'm just here to have fun. And I or the other person is looking like, settle down. And it's like, oh, you waste all this time, like blah, blah, blah. But then you get into the where people say what they want up front and how things are going to be. And then people make up stuff in their mind.
Yeah.
And then that's where the problem comes.
That does happen as well.
Right.
No, it's funny. I think it has to do to me with the maturity of people in dating, right? Like being upfront with your intentions to me should always, but I also understand scenarios or types of engagements where, well, no, I can't think of a use case where you shouldn't be upfront with your intentions. I just think it saves everybody time, but people don't operate that way. At the end of the day, it's like about outcomes. So someone may not be interested in leading with their intentions if they don't think it's going to deliver the outcome that they are desiring.
Right. And then sometimes they think, okay, well, if I play the game this way, in a couple weeks, whatever, I can change the person, or they'll feel this way about me and they'll want to, acquiesce to them or like it. Again, people shouldn't try to change people that they're with because it's not going to work. And then also it's just like, if you're both honest and upfront about what your intentions are, it helps when all the feelings and the hearts and the butterflies and the gushiness gets all jumbled in there. So you're not confused.
Yeah, no, I think about how much we are guided by our own desires and how it influences what we see. It's like two people can look at a certain situation and see very different things depending on what their interest is in it.
Right. Like one man's trash is another man's treasure.
And that's why I think it's important that you have the opportunity for people to, and that's why the whole networking thing I think is important in terms of like marriage, because it should be around a circle of people that can vet the person to a degree.
Okay, but what about the people where it's like their network don't really know them?
Right. I mean, I hear you. And I think, we're talking about modern day anyway. So it's
modern day, everything's a DM.
Right. So I'm just saying, when I think about like an ideal situation, it makes sense that you are marrying someone that is part of a system in which they can be vetted.
Right.
Put it that way. A system in which they can be vetted.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But now, it's a different world out there with the sliding in the DM.
Mm-hmm.
People don't live in the same state. Like, yeah.
But hey, that's why maybe part of why we're creating Sam's community.
Right.
It's like a community of individuals that, we network as friends and get to all know each other, and ultimately questions can be asked through, and so I think we are sort of in part creating what I feel like is required for, and quite frankly, Sam's community is not simply a relationship kind of focus.
It's about people.
It's about people. It's about community.
Yeah.
Families, like it's the whole nine. I think as a community of people, We can band together with our neighbors, with like-minded people, even with people who have very different thoughts about certain things. But I think there's certain core interests around safety, protection, opportunity that I think allows alignment, where, again, you can create your own support system. And I think that's what we're interested in developing. And, through that, there's so much that can happen through that kind of reinforcement. Even in terms of addressing individual needs within a group. I think there's a lot of different opportunities that we can achieve through that. So, I think having relationships are important, in my opinion. A network is important. And I think when we think about marriage and relationships and, committing your life to someone, having the ability to have them, like I said, a system that can vet them, because you are going to infuse them in your life.
Right. And think about, like, again, back in the day, or different cultures where it's like, you have this village, this community, to where it's like they are together, they work together, they interact with each other, family, friends, neighbors down the street, like, so it's just a connectedness.
A connectedness.
Like that.
I do like that. Connectedness. All right, here we go.
Okay, I'm ready.
So the rest of the statement. Sometimes we try to protect ourselves from others by being dishonest about our intentions. Usually that approach does not offer the protection one desired. But one of the things that you said earlier was about playing the game, right? It's like, well, you can do it up to a point. And so walk me through like what you meant by that.
Okay, so just like the last statement you said, someone that said, all right, I'm gonna talk for a female side. So, really likes a guy and you feel like he likes you, but the actions aren't really aligning. But you're just like, okay, I'm gonna just keep with this, like keep being fun or whatever he really likes, so he can continue to engage. And then you feel like, oh, I don't even want to say change, but he'll see your full potential, kind of thing, or all of you. He'll see you to where he'll claim you.
Okay, so
did I not answer your question right?
So, well, it was more along the lines of to protect yourself, and you're
right. So it's like I wouldn't, like, I may really like him, right? I may really like him, but I'm not going to just flat out say, I like you a really lot. Like, hey, you want to be boyfriend or girlfriend? If people say that still, but so I'm just going to keep playing this casual hangout thing, even though inside it's eating me up.
Gotcha.
Oh yeah, we see other people.
I see what you're saying.
And they don't. They want just.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
Okay.
This is great, because I do believe that generally is a one. So I think that that's funny. I didn't even think about that part of it before, where you don't want to come across as too Joe, right? You don't want to come across as needy too much, or too excited. You want to have the same kind of balanced response
I met you yesterday.
that the other person is showing, right?
Yes.
And I get that. And that's fair. But I wonder, again, when we think about marriage, like, to me, being in a situation where you don't have to, like, because ultimately the goal is that you get to a point where you are not doing that.
Correct.
Right?
Right.
So how does that effectively happen? And if he responds differently to that, is he wrong?
It depends what was said up front.
Well, again, if you're not, and there's where the game part to me can be a little bit complicated. I understand it in the concept of protection. And here's what I'll say.
Okay.
Because I understand your analogy in saying, hey, I really like this person. And again, about outcomes. it's like I could be genuine, or I could try to get what I'm actually desiring.
Right.
In order to do that,
right.
I
don't want to scare them away.
Right. So sometimes you might not want to scare them away, so you don't push too hard. And other times you push harder, because it's like you really want them to know, hey, this is how I feel about you, and maybe that's from the guy's perspective sometimes. But the reason I thought I talked about protection is sometimes I think that there's a scenario where one might play a game to try to see how the person responds to negative situations. Meaning, like, I know that there are scenarios in dating or courting, whatever you want to call it, where women will potentially purposefully get the gentleman mad to see how they will respond. Not because like I guess it's like picking a fight.
Right.
Like pick the fight to see how they are in those scenarios. Right. It's like that's how they're trying to gauge, like, hey, if he blows his top, then like I need to step back. But to me, I agree. I don't know if creating those out of nothing just to see how they respond to it. I mean, again, but to each his own. Like, people do what they do for various reasons. Personally, I think that that's a slippery slope potentially. But again, I at least I understand why people would play games per se, as a level of protection in this feeling out period, especially since, like you said, or like, even if I suggested the whole vetting, there isn't that kind of opportunity, that there isn't that network, there isn't that system to vet. So then, like, what then do? You test.
Right.
Since you can't vet, maybe you test.
Right. Yeah. I mean, again, it's funny, with dating, I said, okay, you have to go on a road trip before you're like in your first year kind of thing. I would say your first few months, because people are different on a road trip. They are. And I feel like you get to see people's temperament, road rage, how they are. Like, so my whole thing was like, oh, if they get past the trip test type thing, was always one for me.
Pass the trip test. You want to? I understand what that is, but
I just said it, like a road trip or a trip, like a weekend trip or whatever. Like, go on this trip early in the relationship, so that way you're not in it for years, and then you find out when you do go on these trips, they're a whole different person. Like, their personality, they don't travel well, they're agitated. Like, I mean, yeah, people, you will see, even friends, but like, you'll see people are different when they're away from home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, like, you just see people when they're not in their element, how they behave or handle themselves. And I feel like the trip test is a good way, and you get it out early, so that way you're like, ooh, so that way you're not wasting so much time with that individual, and you're like, ugh, I can never travel with you.
So I'm gonna pivot a little bit.
All right.
We're kind of, tonight's a little bit, we call this popcorn. So we started with about love. What's love got to do with it? But I'm gonna jump a little bit.
Yeah, we can be flexible. Right. It's Friday night.
It's Friday night. All right. So thinking about why people get in relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was listening to a segment related to trying to determine like who the prize is in a relationship, the man or a woman, like sort of like what the response to who the prize was in a relationship. And what I thought about as I listened to the conversation, for me, I felt like for people who are developed and competent, you know what I mean? Like, who've made decisions generally that are in their best interests, in a way that is not harmful to others. in the pursuit of a relationship and they are able to get with their person and where they can pursue marriage for a lifetime, I feel like it is that union that is the prize. You know, it's like I don't look at it as one person. I think it's the ability to, like, you, if you build yourself up in a way, then you have the opportunity to pair with someone where you all can achieve the prize. You know, and like it was, for me, I just didn't see it like one way or the other because of the value and benefits that both add. You know, so it's like, well, how do you discredit, you know,
the other person?
The deposits the other person is making. And I think that it's like finding the person in order to do it for the lifetime, to me, is the prize. But in order to do that, there's something that's required of you. You know, it's like if because in my opinion, if we think of the prize as a person per se, then I think we would acknowledge that depending on how you lived your life, like, could you be categorized as the prize?
You asking me?
Yeah, just in general.
And like, and I just want to clear it up, because when you started talking about the prize and I giggled, because in my brain I was like, when we got together, my mom felt like you're the prize. So
thanks, Mom.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like everybody who has confidence within themselves feels as though they're a prize. Like, you should be ecstatic, overjoyed to be with me, or who, you know, who, but I like how you put it to where we're together, we are achieving a prize.
I agree, because I think, and the reason I put it that way is because I think it is a decision that you are giving all to it. You know, right. Like, I think if you are reserved, then like you're not going to achieve it. You know, I think it's, to me, it's if you're with someone and the both of you are just giving yourselves to it, then to me, you are achieving the prize. Right. But like, that's your requirement as well. So it's like, it's not just on the other person. They can't be the only one doing it.
Right. But you know, hear it like, if it's a pretty girl, like, oh, she's the prize, like, you know.
Oh no, I understand. I get it.
I mean, people are, you know.
Yeah. No, I get the whole conversation. I do
like that concept of getting the prize together.
I think you achieve the prize together.
Right.
You know, so.
And that's how it should be. Again, like, you know.
And I think it's funny because, but here's why it's connected to the other person again. So here's a question. Is wanting to be with someone as the purpose of the marriage sufficient? Or is, and I'll say that in a way of saying, like, is it about the person or the vision?
The marriage?
Right. Is the marriage about the person, or is the marriage about the vision?
That's hard. And now, okay, I'll say why it's hard. So it's like, together, y'all should work towards the vision, right? And I feel like you can't discredit the person, because that's how you got there. Like with you, I can't say it's just the person, because there are times where the person, but I see the vision. So it's like, all right, we gonna get past this. This is fine. This is just a little pocket of whatever. But if it was just, so here's the thing. I feel like if somebody gets together and it's just the vision, they don't have, like, I don't want to say they don't have a strong connection together, but it sounds like a business deal to me. And there are marriages that are like a business deal.
Right. And through that, though, I think, and here's the beautiful part about, if to your point, it did start out as just the vision. I think if both parties were giving 100% to it, it would be acknowledged. And there's where the love will grow, in my opinion. because arranged marriages happen today.
They do.
And I think when you have two equal participants, meaning they're both giving all to the vision that they've agreed to, I think is where love will grow. Because if I see you doing your part and you see me working hard to do my part, and we're in this together, like I think it's to me, I'm hard pressed to feel like there's no feelings that will develop over time. You know what I'm saying?
Right, which is true. And there are arranged marriages that last until the end of time. But
most,
I guess.
Gotta look those stats up.
Right.
We'll get back to you. We'll put those in. We're new to YouTube, but we'll put our stats in the in the description. We'll come back to that.
Like,
I'll write that one down. Put in my notes.
But it's just like, okay, not arranged marriages where it's like, okay, y'all work together, there's a vision of us marrying, having a family, blah, blah, blah. We're working together, we achieve this, we fall in love later. But then what about the ones where it's just like, all right, it's not arranged, but like our parents, like we went to the same school. They went to y'all need to marry each other kind of thing. And it's like on paper, we are excellent. And we get married. It's I feel like they must care about each other, but you don't really feel the love there because they're just working on the vision and the perception of what they have to put out there. And it's like a business deal. Like we work, we have this fabulous life, but it's very stale.
Got it. See, to me, when what you are describing does not sound like 100% commitment. 100%. Like they're giving their all to it. Because in giving your all to it, there's also a connection part of it in terms of a vision.
Gotcha.
So if that's being withheld throughout, then like to me, that we're not talking about the same thing.
Okay.
We're talking about something that leans heavily on one side.
Right.
But again, the emotional part is a big factor, right? Like the emotions to me are, it's like, that's why I'm asking the question, because I think it is one and the same, similar to what we were just talking about in terms of the prize. Like all of it requires the prize.
Right.
You can't separate something out of it and not get the prize, in my opinion.
Right. Because then it's just like, okay, what about the people that would answer just the person? And there is no vision.
Right. And for some, that's how they feel, and I think, those things, there's realities of outcomes, that would suggest that a vision is required.
Yeah. I say you need both.
I mean,
in my opinion, you need both. I feel like you need both. The person,
need.
What is want?
I think that you have more chances of success, even if you were heavier vision than person. I think the percentages of success, if you are heavier on the vision side, you probably have a higher percentage of success than if you're heavy on the person side.
Gotcha.
What do you think? I understand you understood what I said, but
right. And I said you need both, and you said no.
No. I didn't say no. I didn't say no. I'm saying I don't disagree. Right. I don't disagree, but I'm saying if one was removed, which would suffer more?
Okay. Yeah, fine. If we're talking percentages,
I just want
to be a numbers guy. If you're talking percentages, then yes, more vision to keep you aligned with what the goal is
than person.
In
terms of the feelings you have towards them.
Right. Because feelings change.
People change. Well, my feelings for you haven't changed.
Oh, they should be stronger.
All right, here we go. Strategy, vision. Here's a question for you. What's the best part about dating?
Free dinner.
You heard it right here, folks.
Just kidding.
Free dinner. Hey, it's all good.
No.
It's worth it.
I mean, yeah.
I like to eat.
Yes. I would say best thing about dating. It's the newness, like the being able, and again, the world is different. I don't know what y'all doing out there right now, because I like the being on the phone for hours, like talking about everything and nothing all at the same time. The newness, like you have energy that I don't know where it comes from, because it's like you could work a full time. Let me pass, right? Worked a full-time job. Sam was like, hey, I'm playing basketball. You want to come, blah, 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 6 o'clock, whatever. Sure. No hesitation. Now, mind you, I'm tired. Ain't eat. Don't matter. I may be driving in another hour. Don't matter. Get there. Hey, all. And, you want to get a bite to eat or hang out or whatever? Sure. Not saying that you got to get up at 5 a.m. Get in the house 4 o'clock in the morning. Bright eye, bushy tail. I feel like it's the newness, the freshness. It just gives, I don't know what it is, but yes, and the food. What about you?
Well, it's funny. When I asked the question, I wasn't thinking specific to premarital versus postmarital dating.
Oh.
I was thinking about just dating as in like the act of dating someone and what happens. And for me, it's like dating is now different than what it was. Because I've been dating you for the last, 6 years. Like we're married.
Right.
So when we do go out, we are on dates. And I think that,
yes.
No, please.
No, because I was going to say yes. We're on dates when we're married, but they are not like they were pre-kids.
They're different.
They are.
Because they serve a different purpose. Like,
I mean, sometimes we went on a date and it was like, it's 9 o'clock. Let's go home and take a nap.
Again, we are in a different phase in our life, you know? So my point is that even a date is looked at as like the fact that it can be rest for us.
Right.
Like it just means like that's what we needed at that time. Yeah. We needed to just break away from what we were doing to even just sit down somewhere and slowly eat a plate of food,
or the moms out there eating a hot plate of food.
Right. Right. No, but I think for me, it's really just about, again, opportunity to get to know you, because we're changing. And I think that part is cool. And I feel like because I'm much more aware of the changes I'm going through, I am curious about how you are different, And so when we go on dates, I get to explore that a bit.
Right.
I think dating in the past, again, it generally was always about putting your best foot forward in a way that now I think I generally was pretty much the same, but I understand why it can cloud your vision and cloud your sense of what it really requires, to make it last.
Right.
I can see how it can cloud that.
And a little bit of superficial. Dating pre-marriage, there are certain things I would never order on the menu, but dating married, I would order it. It's not a price point. It's like etiquette. Like so it's like married. I can pick up that rib. Pre-married, it's like, oh no, God. Yeah. So
Message, fellas.
If they eating that rib, they comfortable.
Well, Samantha Ray, this was, I think, a great conversation.
This was fun.
We're testing out YouTube.
Yes.
Welcome. We'll make sure and this is our first one, and we don't we've been through this process before, that now that this is our first actual stream, we are just comfortable getting out because we know we're going to be able to improve on the process.
Yes.
We look forward to
having
feedback. You here with us when we do go and notify you next time.
Yes.
But
this was good.
Yeah. So I hope you enjoy it. We'll send it back out, cut it up into some of the small conversations that we were having. And hopefully we notify you guys so you can join us next time.
Yes.
Until then,
stay blessed.
Peace.